Welcome to the podcast about being unmessable with, no matter what life throws at you. Here is your host, Josselyne Herman-Saccio.
Welcome. I'm your host, Josselyne Herman-Saccio, and today I want to talk about fulfillment. So many people that I work with are chasing being fulfilled. So the question is, what does that even look like? What does that even mean? And mostly why people get messable with when it comes to being fulfilled is because they're looking for it as a reaction to some circumstance. Like, well, if this happens, then I'll be fulfilled. Or if she or he says this or looks at me this way or treats me this way, then I'll be fulfilled. Or if I make X amount of money, then I'll be fulfilled. And that is all in the world of reaction. Now, when I say being unmessable with, I don't mean being tough. I mean being able to shift from the world of reaction to the world of creation at any given moment. And when I work with people for enough time, they begin to exercise the muscle of creation and then fulfilling on what they created. And that's true fulfillment. Think about it. If you have a vision for what your life could look like a year from now. Maybe it's reducing your work schedule. Maybe it's, increasing your footprint or impact with your business, whatever it is, living in a different country or state, or having a place to go to on the weekends, or something with your children's education, or whatever the vision is. If you envision it and then design your life to be a fulfillment of that vision, that is called creation and fulfillment all at once. So this year, I am fulfilling on what I designed last year. Now I've got to be designing what I'm going to be fulfilling on for the next year. So most people just deal with life as it comes. They react. They get a call. Oh, here's a potential client. Okay, that's good. I'll take that client. And then sooner or later, they end up in the prison of reaction, because your life is not a fulfillment of anything that you've created because you didn't design anything. And if you liken this to, an analogy of building a house, you can't build a house that you didn't design. You can't fulfill on a plan or a blueprint that doesn't exist. So if you don't have a plan or a blueprint or a vision that you're fulfilling on, then all you have is reaction. So I want you to actually look for yourself in your life. Where in your life are you reacting? Now, you might be being effective and successful, but that's very different than being fulfilled. Most people spend their life producing results, getting things done, but not really experiencing being fulfilled. And the methodology that I'm talking to you about will enable you to be fulfilled at any given moment, because what you're fulfilling on is a life that you created, a life that you designed, not a life that you ended up living by default because of whatever came at you and you reacted however you did, and you ended up with the circumstances that you ended up with. So this is a simple but potent recipe for fulfillment. The first thing is you envision. What do you want? What do you want your life to look like a year from now? Start 5 years from now, because 5 years from now will influence the 3-year from now plan, which will influence the 1 year from now plan. But if your vision can't go quite out that far just yet, just start a year from now. What is it that if you started from nothing, not extrapolating on what you have now, like I want to have 10% more money, or I want to have, 14% more free time. I mean, that would be weird if you wanted 14% more free time, but start from nothing, like you're designing it, like you're designing a house from nothing. So you have a blank page. What do you want your life to look like? What kinds of people do you want to be interacting with? What kind of work do you want to be doing? What kind of hours do you want to be spending with your family versus your company? Like, what would you create if you were the designer of all of it? And don't worry about how to fulfill on it right now. Just create from nothing. Once you create that picture from nothing, then you can create a design, a plan, a blueprint for getting there. You take it from a year out. You say, okay, this is what I want my business to look like. What would have to happen 9 months from now. So 3 months earlier, for that to be a done deal, for the 1 year plan to be a done deal, what would have to happen 3 months earlier? And you create what we call milestones or mile markers, as I like to call them, that will be like truing mechanisms for you to see if you're on track for your vision being fulfilled. And then you do it 6 months earlier and then 3 months earlier. And once you get 3 months out, you want to start moving from here forward. And you look in the next 3 months, what actions do you need to take to fulfill on the mile markers that you have set for 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, 12 months? And you start to create, you actually start to fulfill the vision through your action plan. Now, I could talk about this for about 5 days, but I just want to get you thinking about your vision first. Don't worry so much about the planning part of it. I have plenty of tools for that on my website. And if you want to, look at some of the freebies that I have, and also the 1-day workshop for creating your year, that would be a good resource for you if you really want to get into the minutia and have some handouts and workbooks that you can use to plan out the actions. But the most important thing is the vision. So the first question is just, what do you want your life to look like if you're creating it from nothing? That's why sometimes it's better to start 5 years from now, because it's hard to kind of separate yourself from everything that's happening right now to be able to get a clean slate. So if you go 5 years from now, even 10 years from now, don't go more than 10. 10 years is about the max that I would recommend. Create the blank space and then design what you really want and start working backwards to be able to create an action plan that will fulfill on what you created. Creation, fulfillment. Creation, fulfillment. It is a different kind of life than reaction and action. So you're going to react to what's happening. You're going to react to the lack of business. You're going to react to the lots of business, and you're going to end up being in a prison of what life gave you by default, not by design. It is possible to live a life by design. Game on. See you on the next episode.
Thank you again for tuning into this week's episode of Be Unmessable with the podcast. And I never take for granted that you spend time with me. And I always want to make sure that you get value when you do. So I am including in the show notes a link for you for our Basics of Being Unmessable with workbook. It's a 12-page workbook that gives you all the basics of developing yourself to be unmessable with no matter what life throws at you, to be able to shift from the world of reaction to creation on a dime. And it'll give you a whole practice that you can implement in your daily life over and over and over again. So click on the link below and grab that 12-page workbook and let me know what you discover as you engage with it. Have a great week.